gentlemen, evolves beyond traditional platforms. The conversation is no longer limited to technology alone. It now exceeds to national security, sovereignty, and public trust. And thus, now we have a panel where we'll be talking about security and sovereignty in D2M, building India's trusted broadcasting infrastructure. Please allow me to invite the session chair, Mr. Arvind Vora, serial entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. With a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please.
You never had silicon go inside from India into a mobile device. You had chargers and batteries and data cables. So I think it was a very proud moment for what you all guys created in terms of a D2M chip to move on to a mobile device.
From an Intel perspective, and just a quick background on how Intel has gone about always looking at a larger ecosystem approach. When you look at chips and processors, very important piece of technology, but only as important as a thriving local ecosystem is, right? When we look at the 1970s, 1980s, and I'm talking about the components which really found their hotbed in Asia, Southeast Asia. A lot happened because the local innovation ecosystem was rampant. And cut to today, when we look at India, where we have very strong missions coming up from the lens of, to Prashant's point, tech sovereignty, to the lens of really diversifying the supply chains, because there are a lot of bottlenecks if you really were to look at a larger endpoint solution to the very basic fact that goes inside the chip. It's not just, so very often, this discussion of chips is had in the contours or in the context of geopolitical factors. I would say even before the geopolitical factors, it's the geographic factors and the fact that the concentration of chips coming from one part of the world, which if tomorrow is cut off from the rest of the world for any reason, it's going to bring the world economy to a standstill. And that is where the form factor innovations, the chipset innovations, the local design innovations, even if the foundries will get diversified, is very, very critical to any country's ecosystem going deep and being meaningful in very unique ways, which brings me to the second part, when I talk about uniqueness. And as Intel, we very strongly believe that technology needs to drive human progress.
This is a closed ecosystem like it starts from the chipset producer, chipset designer, chipset producer, and then they have their ecosystem of components around it. So to break that and put up a additional chip inside was a initial challenge, but because of the future outlook that we can create a big differentiator by integrating this feature in the mobile phone. And we started with feature phones in India for Indian customer. As we all are discussing about the dependency on data networks and the bottlenecks which we have, and our real users, which are still more than 200 million users who use the feature phones, and they want affordable technology. They don't have money to spend on expensive technologies. So keeping that in mind, we started working on that, and so wherever we reached, so there is a feeling of pride that we have integrated our own chip, and we have made it working. And now, as I was sharing, so end of the day, the whole product or the technology has to be accessible to the bottom pyramid of our customers, users. So now we are working, so how to have only incremental cost increase in the overall mobile phone cost. And I'm sure that in next couple of months, we will be able to do that.
With the technology coming in, you have a very much, a possibility that you are able to give the content to those guys who are in the media dark areas. So that's what actually fascinated us, and we thought this could be a big differentiation for, the consumers, because these are the guys who are actually in the need, for that content, to be consumed, whether it is, entertainment, whether it is education, whether it is disaster information being given to them. They are the ones who are in the dire need, because for a tier 1 guy or a, metro guy, they have access to multiple screens, multiple resources. But for that guy, it's a life and death, so if you're able to give that content to that particular consumer, then you've done your job. And on top of that, if the chip is made in India, it is the latest chip. It takes care of all the security aspects, because all the the chipsets that are currently available, they have been in the market for a while. For example, if I look at the chipsets which are now going into the feature phones, they're all designed almost 2 decades back. Security is a forfeit on that. Today's security, 20 years back security is a mismatch, right? So you need a development of a new chipset which is relevant to current time and relevant to the current security. So that's why it is all the more important. And the standards like ATSC and other standards coming together, giving a compelling technology which is fully spoofing proof, jamming proof, is the right way to go. And for that, again, that section of consumers, security is also of a paramount importance, because even 10 rupees for them is like a big cash and a currency for those guys. So for them, if you give them the phone and the technology which is the most secure, they will love it.
We adopted the D2M technology in our market, and then it has been getting improved and improved. So our people are enjoying very much for this D2M technology so far. Even for our mobile, even for the television at home, even in the car. So we are using the D2M without Wi-Fi connectivity, without the internet connectivity, the data free. So it is a very, very good technology for the peoples, even in Korea. So as you know, well, Korea is very small but strong. India is big and strong. So I think the D2M technology is the right technology for the Indian markets. So speaking of the India, why I invest a lot of the effort in the D2M technology. This is for the people in India. So I like to bring the happiness into the India. That I highlighted the last session in 2025. I'm in the same position. So in my company name is the Kushitex. The I using the Kushi. Kushi means is happy, because I like the India cultures. The last mission will be bring the happiness into your home, especially for the children. So with the D2M technology, we can deliver lot of the contents, especially for the emergency alerts, educational service contents. So data free, the educational, the contents, we have the 2 educational broadcasting systems. There is for the students. It's a data free, Wi-Fi free, internet free. So any children, the school students, they can enjoy the educational service which is delivered by the governments.
In doing so, we are doing a lot of innovation. One of the innovations that we are looking at very closely is D2M, and to provide a backup for the national security platforms using D2M. So the government is very, very well aware, and they understand and appreciate what D2M brings to the table in terms of resilience, to provide a backup for all sorts of PNT requirements, the positioning, navigation, and timing requirements, because all our infrastructure, that is our stock markets and our banks, they all rely very heavily on the PNT, the positioning, the navigation, and the timing. And D2M is just step one. If we want to get into a situation where We are prepared for constant threats from our neighbors, which is what South Korea has been facing since several decades because of the turmoil between the North and the South Korea. They have created 1, no, 2, 5 backups, right? D2M is just step number 1. NAVIC is step number 1 actually as a backup. But the problem with NAVIC is that it is not very resilient inherently. It is prone, any satellite solutions are very, very prone to jamming. So that is the reason why we need a terrestrial based backup, which I would say is work in progress. We are working very, very closely with the government and the various different arms of the government, different ministries of the government to enable that.
I think you have a very unique situation wherein you have the device ecosystem players already ready and you need to only enable a carrier. So it's in an inverted situation. So if this inverted situation could be looked at very positively, I think we're ready for the go. And I think from D2M, I'm sure Shesh and Mark would be very happy to hear this. From D2M, we can actually move to B2X. Thank you so much.
Drones, robotics, and intelligent automation are today's product. Talk about it, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome our speakers for a session titled as Drones, Robotics, Production.
And thank you very much to the organizers, first of all, for of the BES Expo and the conference committee especially, for considering to keep a session like this so specific for the purpose of broadcasting, especially the new technologies which are coming into play a much bigger role in the studios and also the live coverages. So I would I would also welcome all the panelists who are present here, and one by one I think I'll call upon everyone and let them speak up.
And we have seen technology growing, technology evolving, and especially in the programming side, it has gone up like notches from the era we have seen. The topic today, drones and robotics, is something which is growing day by day. We have now, I will say, use of drone and robotics is something like a mixture of human creativity, human artistry, and then in convergence with the technology to create the best programming we get. See, drones are used today not only by news channels, they are used by programmers, especially reality shows, especially nature shootings where accessibility to human beings is very difficult, or used to be earlier with helicopters or by very costly devices, and now it has come out to be a very economical thing. One very interesting use of drones which is happening, and I think we all should admit, is short form content. The short form content makers who were earlier not able to create a cinematic sort of approach or cinematic view is now able to do with the help of drones a lot, and that's why they are gaining more prominence and, let's say, more popularity in the whole business. Along with that, robotics, especially the cameras, which are now done a lot with robotics and in control with AI, is helping short form content a lot. Though if we see the studios, especially the news, we see the use of robotics and AI into it. Sitting in one room, you can control multiple cameras, multiple locations, wherein, especially in the sports broadcast, which is one prime example, where the use of AI and drones is happening and the robotics is happening. So it's a growing field and technology is improving. We have a lot of things happening onto it. Regulations are settling. Rather, I will say settled in India. Drones regulations came around 4 years back, and now they're quite established. So that's regulations are part of it. So technology is there. It's stable technology. It's working good. It's being deployed commercially. We need to be more creative into it, and that's all for the time. Let's move.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Khattar. So what he's saying essentially is that, of course, these technologies are coming in a big way. In fact, I'd like to share an experience. We were visiting the Busan International Film Festival in Korea, And we happened to also go to one of their national broadcasters' TV studios, and that's called the MBC, if I remember correctly. And the MBC newsroom was this big a studio with 16 cameras there on the floor, and not a single person or a wire in focus. All 16 cameras were robotic. They were controlled completely by one person, and that also was assisted by AI. So more or less, it was self-controlled. It could zoom in, which camera to use, which is to be focused, which is to be moved, and the background graphics, all by one person just overseeing. So that is the level of technology which we feel is going to come slowly into the broadcasting sector. And I'm sure that all these technologies will serve the most important purpose, is that content enhancement, and after that it's engagement with the viewer. That's what we all are here working for, and I'm sure these kind of technologies will take a leap forward in the content engagement.
Typically, IHFC is the Section 8 company. We are the technology innovation hub of IIT Delhi. What we fundamentally do is that we bring together academia, we bring together industry and the government to come together and collaborate on building projects which are related to drones, automation, as well as, you could say, in entertainment, for collaborating in terms of creating a new robot in automation, or creating a drone which is different than just surveillance and would be relaying something better in terms of broadcasting. So we work on that. So R&D, we have startups who are working brilliantly, and I'm sure most of you might have heard of BotLabs Robotics. Have you heard of BotLabs? BotLab, if you've seen the drone shows that are being conducted at India Gate, those wonderful drone shows where they're creating India Gate, all those things with the drones, that's BotLabs Dynamics, and they are one of the startups incubated. So you can see they're already using that kind of camera and their drones, and they're communicating with each other to form amazing formations in the sky, and to the extent that they've even gone to form amazing formations within a small auditorium, even smaller than this. So that's what we do. We encourage startups to come up with something in robotics, something in drones, which are very, very different, and in automation. And we basically handhold them. So we are an incubator and an accelerator, and we are totally backed up by DST, that's the Department of Science and Technology. We work very closely with Prasar Bharati as well as ABU.
So all the components of in the media center like this, where we are talking about content production, we are in a little bit of alien world. But I won't say it's alien, I'll try to correlate. The content production, by definition, is that you take the raw information, verify it, and then make it audience ready. This is exactly what we do with the help of drones, robotics, and automation in the armed forces. And the latest was seen in Op Sindoor, which I can later on define how it happened. The components involved. Essentially, a war is fought. Since I'm a student of air war fighting especially, where drones and robotics become also important undersea and on ground, I'll give some glimpses of it, how it's going, how content for armed forces is nothing but data coordinates. Where is target? If you know the target, you can always send a thing to meet it. So the context is the revolution in military affairs has told us three things. One is that it has to be beyond visual range. When you say visual range, it means beyond the range of radar also. That before anyone can see you, you can hit the target. Like we hit one aircraft in Op Sindoor, which was the airborne aircraft, AEWC, at nearly 300 kilometers, was confirmed by the Chief of Air Staff also. That's not the range of their weapons and missiles to hit us, so they were beyond visual range. The second aspect is precision. Precision is very important. There should be no collateral damage The collateral damage causes all kinds of, geopolitical storm and all kinds of other collateral issues which are not part of the mission. And third is net centricity. If you see all this, all three, which is known as revolutionary military affairs, and combine them with your OODA loop, probable OODA loop, which says observe, you observe, that is, you know what the situation is, how the order of battle, orient, see the context, find out where the enemy is, what are the targets, decide, and act. If this whole loop, the way these days the ammunition is coming at you, whether in the form of hypersonic missile or supersonic missile, or the way ballistic missiles will come at you, the speeds are very high. People are talking in the range of 10 Mach or something. 1 Mach is nearly 3.5 kilometers per second. So if you say 10 Mach, it is 35 kilometers per second something is coming at you. You normally detect at the range of 15 to 20 kilometers, so you hardly have any time to react. So you ought to see a human being is being crushed out of the system because of the speed which is becoming so relevant. So if you can't manage the speed, therefore Iron Dome, which is being talked about in the Israeli context, what does Iron Dome do? It automatically engages all the rockets that are launched at it, which used to be there in hundreds in a day before this war happened, Gaza war happened. So the idea is that you're creating content which is targeting information. You're creating content which analyzes through AI, is this, in the whole mass of data you have, which one is relevant data? That is verifying. And then making it audience ready means you're making it firing ready. Can I decide to fire at it? Okay, you decide, and then you press the kill button.
I'll break, as far as my background is concerned, we are, as they say, the tip of the sword when it comes to robotics and AI. We are second to none is the feeling that we work with. And as PK sir brought out very vividly, we are no longer in a world where all of these things are concepts. We have so many people from the broadcasting industry here, and I want to say that it's with a lot of great pride that broadcasting and our entire media has been one of the pillars of the soft power of India. There's a very famous saying, which I'll leave you all with, which is that battles are fought on ground, but they're won in the mind. And the mind, essentially in the digital age, is a factor of how do you influence the broadcasting, the content creation, as well as the narrative warfare. It is not a matter of if we will go for another round of operations, it's a matter of when. When that happens, not only do we need each one of you who's present here and in the broadcasting industry at large to stand shoulder to shoulder with everyone who has a gun or an aircraft, to also be there and make sure that the right narrative and the soft power of India is able to bring this to the right conclusion. From every war that we have fought to every boardroom discussion that we have in this century, automation, AI, and robotics are slowly becoming the mainstay of that conversation. Every battle that's going to be fought is going to be for the world to see. And drones and robotics, as well as broadcasting, all three of them are very important pillars. We are looking at the operations like Rising Lion, which was recently done between Israel and Iran, or you look at the special military operations being carried out in Ukraine by the Russians and the Ukrainian war. All of it is visible to each one of us, and that is a factor of drones and the broadcasting being there at the front line. That is one aspect of it. But what is the role of broadcasting when it looks at? It's also about making sure that only the information that is supposed to come out comes. There have been n number of incidents, and I will just put one where the responsibility of the broadcasters come in. Recently, one of the Ukrainian airfield, wherein an interview was being conducted by one of the broadcasters, they brought out the location of that airfield, and within 7 minutes of that broadcast, an airstrike was carried out by the other side. We have to be also responsible when we do this broadcasting. So I'll put a pause here and say that each one of us needs to take this topic very seriously.
Many of the today's technological advancements, like the internet, first originated for military use. So, before it could actually come a reality for public use, after maybe, 15, 20 years is what internet came out after it was already invented for military usage. So is with drones. We've seen in the last 10, 15 years, the way drones have grown. And it has always been first military requirements which have driven the innovations in the sector. And then henceforth, we sort of imbibe that in the other sectors, and including that in the broadcasting. Like drones are very, very useful now, especially for outdoor shoots, and a lot of capturing of videos takes place there. In fact, there even in outdoor, there are much more scopes. Like we have to sometimes capture long races or cyclothons. So, we have to keep having drones which have good quality camera mounted on them, and also have a very, very long range of flying. So we're looking forward to more innovations here from that part. Now I'll come to Mr. Shrivastav, and I would, because he's been so closely following of what all defense utilization of advanced technology has been, what he feels from his side would be applicable for the media industry as well, and of course what he feels from his end, from his experience of using the technologies, especially in the aviation and the defense sector.
We are all aware today that the globalized world order is completely fragmented, and there is increasing propensity towards digital sovereignty. Alliances are breaking, trade and security doctrines are getting reshaped, and technologies have now become a major strategic asset. So nations today seek control over data, over chips, over algorithms, for which you have the US CHIPS Act, you have the EU AI Act, India has its own DPDP, and also now we have the AI mission. More importantly, institutions that were set up for AI as AI safety institutes in the US and in Europe today have been renamed as AI security institutes. It is not a semantic shift, it's a shift in mandate. And it is in recognition of the threats and risks that we face today besides the opportunities. So therefore, alliances have now given way to AI blocks or technology blocks across the world. And we can clearly see two technology blocks which I see at a geopolitical level, which is the US, and the other is China, which is catching up. And then you have the middle powers. The middle powers, Europe, Japan, and I dare say India is one of them. All of us have now got these competing models to cope with. There is the US-led model, which is more market-led. There is the Chinese-led model, which is state-centric-led. And then we have these middle powers like EU, which are dominating through regulation. And that is where we have to find our place amongst these nations as we look at every aspect of our national security today. It is linked to cyber security, it is linked to information warfare, it is linked to lethal autonomic weapon systems, disinformation campaigns, you name it. And I dare say today, we are in a state of constant contestation. Maybe not constant war, but constant contestation. And that contestation is rightly named today as hybrid warfare. India has been experiencing hybrid warfare for decades. The European continent and the European Union have begun to face it since the Crimean War or the Crimean takeover happened in 2014. If we are looking at Viksit Bharat 2047, we should look at it as a finish line. We have to look at what goes into it today. Our Make in India program, our development of strategies to counter cognitive warfare, to counter hybrid warfare have to be in place now, not tomorrow, not later. The conditions are already ripe today In today's world, which is disrupted by torn loyalties between countries and shifting power equations, I think India's time has now come. Along with it, it is the time of the broadcast media to keep up. It is now. And we must all join our hands together, put our shoulders to the wheel, and ensure, as the gentleman earlier mentioned, can we do these things together? Can the defense, the broadcast media, all put our heads together, come up with effective intelligence, effective utilization for national security? And with that, I thank you for being patient listeners.
Ladies and gentlemen, as they say, every opportunity comes with the responsibility. And because the broadcasting enters an era of speed, scale, and precision, there's one question that stands out at the heart of every newsroom today. That is, how do we harness the power of AI without compromising trust?
As all know, newsrooms have always been shaped by technology. The printing press industrialized distribution, satellite television's compressed distance, internet collapsed publishing cycles from days to minutes, and now we are in the middle of another structural shift. Newsroom automation powered by data systems, cloud production, and increasingly artificial intelligence. Generally, newsroom is not just about machines, and machines are not replacing journalism. It's a story about journalism changing its operating system, how stories are discovered, verified, produced, packaged, and distributed at a pace and scale that would have been impossible several decades ago. What does automation mean in today's newsroom? When people hear automation, they often think of only AI writing articles, but this is more than that. Automation can help you in so many aspects of your newsroom. One, story discovery automation. Basically, systems monitor social platforms, public data feeds, police markets, weather and government portals, and is able to flag breaking news to anybody in real time. You can also engage in production automation, which in terms of templated graphics, auto captioning, translation, clip generation, highlights of extraction, and studio workflows, which were virtually impossible earlier. And then comes to publishing automation. Today, for any broadcasting channel or a news channel, content is not distributed just on their screens, but it also goes to YouTube, Instagram, OTT platforms, websites, all at a single time. And then you have audience automation, basically using data-driven points. You can also decide where to target your stories, how it should be published, the format in which it can be published. And ultimately, it's also personalized content. You can deliver personalized content to almost every mobile. And the last but most important point is to ensure that compliance and safety automation, and especially in the days of fake news, it's very important that you can use technology to check your stories. Also, rights management, which is a very important part of any business. You can also do archiving, content moderation, and as I had mentioned, most probably handling deepfakes and misinformation.
AI is one of the tools that is going to enhance the workflows that we have. And this is something that has been happening for the past decade or more, that automation has been part of all aspects of broadcasting since 2000, I would say. But what has changed now is that we are bringing in something that is making it more personalized and agent-driven than what it used to be in the past. In the past, a lot of the tools, automations that we had were manually triggered by human interface. There was somebody to do something for it to operate. But now, with especially agency AI coming into play, what is happening is that a lot of these operations that previously had to have a human intervention is being automated throughout. The difficulty for us, especially being broadcasters, is that it brings us to a level where ethically it's becoming more difficult for us to accept these operations. Mainly because the underlying process within the ABU, for example, when we developed our own AI principles, is two things that we are looking at. One is we should do everything possible to safeguard the trust we have with the audience. That should not be broken at any cost. That's one of the founding values that we have. The second one is there has to be a level of governance in any technology that we use, especially now with AI. So these are the two founding principles that we have used in our way that we developed our principles. And these principles have been published now, it's available on our website. It's a generic set of framework that any broadcaster can use to guide their operations, guide the implementation of AI at any level. And there are different categories that we have noted. Basically, we are saying that the operations of AI, especially governance of AI, has to be split into 3 levels. We probably go into details later on. One is the automation part, which is given green light. You can go and do the automations as well as much as you want. Second is anything that relates to content. Generating content has to have some level of human intervention. Some level of monitoring has to be there if it is going to generate content or alter content. The third level is some things that are available and possible, but because we are broadcasters, we should not use it. We should not use anything in that area where it may create mistrust with our audience. These tools are available, but we should not be using it. So these are the 3 things that we have highlighted in our AI principles, and we'll discuss these later on, I think. But these tools are available, when the policies are available. We have created an AI hub page on our website where we provide 3 sets of information. One is the principles that we have, which we keep on updating as and well the industry tools are coming out. The second is how the industry is using it. What are the tools that the industries are using it? The third is what broadcasters are using within their facilities. What tools are being tested and used by broadcasters so that you don't have to retest those. So that these tools that other broadcasters are using have been tested, so you are free to use them, rather than using some third-party tools or some new tools that come out which have not been tested. So this information is available on our website, and we keep on encouraging, of course, our members to get into AI, use AI, but at the same time, you need to have some level of governance and framework in place before you give these tools to your staff.
In the topic, we talked about news, production, and playout, right? So in the news, I'll break it down into acquisition and production of news. Then we'll talk about planning, and then we'll talk about playout, right? Now, what I intend doing here is to throw light on some of the products or solutions that are available, which are AI-based, out of India. So we've talked about Make in India, we've talked about Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbharta. These are companies from India that have made solutions, are now going global. So I'd like to talk about the flow of the content and say from the acquisition stage, like Sir said when his this thing, that for real-time monitoring of topics, trend spotting across all platforms, be it print, digital, or legacy, AI systems can be used over there and are readily available. Once the incoming feed is coming into the news organization, based on these topics that are being identified, face recognition is available, autofocus even from the cameras. Some of these cameras here also have autofocus out here, which means it's tracking my eyeballs, and if I move back a bit or if I pan my face a bit, that camera is tracking me automatically. That's available today. So it helps in my production when I'm choosing shots that I want. The other is face recognition. From the field, I'm getting the face being recognized of the person who was being who was speaking, right? It reduces the amount of processing time in the organization once the feed comes in. The other is searching for that feed is easy. All I have to do is put the name of the person and the date, and I will get all the video clips of this person right there immediately.
Today we are seeing the fragmentation of media in general, even the audiences, and the fragmentation of the revenue as well with the digital eruption. So definitely the journalism, the root is the ethics of journalism, and what the content, the validity of the content is very important. The session before, it was actually the impact of AI on broadcast, covers all that aspects of what responsibility the broadcast need to carry. The broadcasters do have on their shoulders. So the authenticity of media is very important. So when we look into automating, why it is essential to have artificial intelligence in broadcast production to the entire chain of the process, and what should be applied, where it should be applied, to what extent it can be applied. Of course, said in many words, human intervention is always essential, and the last rule is the decision is made by a human and not a machine. So like Dr. Nadeem sir was saying about the agentic context engineering, so the AI needs to, while the prompt says, okay, there is a control, you need to do this job. But what to do? The thought process, agentic, being autonomous, how can it be autonomous? And what is the responsibility of having an AI? So today, with so much of digital eruption and having the media coming on the click of a mouse or just on a mobile phone, so we need to understand the responsibility which comes imbibed into it, that we actually carry the right information and to what level it can have adverse impact on the society, which is told by Major General Saab in many words, in critical situations. So does an AI understand the situation and react in the real way with a responsibility? How much of responsibility is imbibed into it? How much of intelligence is there? So which are the areas? Like my friend Sushant has told many words about the enrichment of metadata by which you're going to identify the content. Creating auto highlights like sports contents earlier when we are in like the company that I come in with the technology, passion on technology to learn more new things. We have started evolving from the linear age of broadcasting. We have seen the nonlinear ways of doing things. And now how quick, because to keep up in pace, and have the value of my newsroom, my editorial contribution. So what is that, how do I capture the audience? What is the audience looking at? One is interactivity. It should be participating and carry the right information in the right spirit to the right audience.
And I'm sure that all of us will agree that globally AI has created newsrooms which were generally a traditional linear pipeline is being converted into a real-time content factory with, as everybody mentioned, editorial judgment will have to be at the center of this process.